Hello everybody and welcome to the April edition of the EPALE Newscast. We are going to cover some news from the EU, a few highlights from the EPALE platform and address some of the impact of Europe's demographic changes. Let's get started. It's a packed episode. We're going to start and kick off with the latest Flash Eurobarometer. 92% of people in the barometer said that digital skills should be taught to everyone at all levels of education. 81% said that teachers should have the skills to use and understand AI with confidence and ease. And almost 90% said that all teachers should be able to help students to recognize misinformation online. As part of the EU Union of Skills, the European Commission has published 4 new key guideline documents to help teachers navigate the digital world. There's one on AI, on tackling disinformation, on high-quality informatics, and on digital education content. And use them to inspire your work. Now, skills are at the top of Europe's agenda, and last month the European Council made it official. A new recommendation on human capital has been adopted, calling on member states to tackle the skills shortages across key sectors, from healthcare to digital, education to green technologies. And the numbers are striking. In 2024, 77% of EU companies flagged skills gaps as a barrier to their growth, and the digital skills target for 2030 is already looking out of reach. The recommendation puts adult learning, VET, and basic skills firmly back in the spotlight. So head over to the EPALE platform to read the full analysis by the Lifelong Learning platform. Talking of the EPALE platform, did you miss the first EPALE Corner webinar? Don't worry, the recording is now available. The Central Support Services took users on a practical walkthrough of the EPALE's key features, creating content to navigating the platform with confidence. The presentation slides are also available for those who want to explore at their own pace. And if you haven't marked your calendar yet, the next webinar is coming at the end of May. You can find the recording and all the details on the EPALE platform. Now, in 2024, the first ever European Commissioner for Intergenerational Fairness was appointed. And a few weeks ago, he launched a strategy for intergenerational fairness. It highlighted the role of skills and lifelong learning in ensuring that all generations can adapt to change and enable older workers to remain in work and live independently in their own homes. The key skills that were mentioned included critical thinking, media literacy, social and intercultural competencies. And this matters because Europe is the fastest aging continent in the world. By 2050, the average age of the whole population will increase by 4.5 years. The number of people over 65 years old will grow from 91 million to 130 million. And of these, more than 38 million people, older people, will need long-term care. And that care is often delivered, more than 80% of it is delivered by informal carers. They're often unpaid, usually family members, and particularly women. Many carers assist family members, neighbours or friends with their health or support needs, often without any preparation, training or recognition. They may have to juggle their care responsibilities alongside work, family and their own personal health needs, often without access to practical guidance or emotional support. An EU-funded project is stepping in to help this because it's enabled the World Health Organization to develop and test a course to fill this gap. It offers evidence-based information to help caregivers feel more confident, prepared, and supported in their role. You can find out more information on the links connected to this webcast. And just to give you context to this, European countries spend 1.7% of their GDP on long-term care. But the value of care delivered by informal caregivers is 2.5% of GDP. So the difference between what's actually spent by the state and the value is what's given, that shows you how much input there is from individuals, often with very low pay or no pay. So the importance of skills building for this community is very high. The demographic shifts that I talked about will have profound implications for our society, particularly pension systems, which will be expected to fund more people with fewer cohorts of working age people who are contributing through their taxes. Across the economy, some jobs are already hard to fill, and yet others are disappearing fast as a result of AI deployment. The heaviest burden of these changes will fall on young people who face high costs for education and housing. few economic opportunities, longer working requirements, and smaller welfare safety nets. And these potential fracture points, they undermine Europe's concepts of solidarity and equality. For example, today's young people are likely to face a higher caregiving burden when they reach their 50s and 60s compared to previous generations, while also being at risk of receiving less care themselves when they get older. A particular challenge will be health and care services, where we already have a chronic shortage of workers, and that need will grow. But what is the cost, the human cost of working in a caring profession? We've got a fantastic article on the EPALE platform by Saskia Eschenbacher called The Hidden Cost of Care. It takes us into the inner world of paramedics and firefighters and asks a question we rarely dare to voice. What happens to empathy when it becomes a professional requirement? Drawing on conversations with 57 first responders, the piece explores how the daily confrontation with trauma can quietly erode the very quality that makes this work meaningful, and why that should concern all of us. It's a powerful read. I recommend it, and it's available on the EPALE platform. Now, that story was important, and the process used by the European Commission to develop the new EU intergenerational fairness strategy was also really unique. They, of course, did many rounds of consultations and citizen panels, and the findings from these were translated into art pieces that were created by intergenerational groups together, and they feature in an exhibition called The Good Ancestor. That's a visual immersion into the ways that different generations experience fairness. It explores core human values and emotional elements like hope, legacy, and responsibility. And 3 guiding themes emerged: inspiration, connection, and care. Now, those themes were put into stories that were co-written by citizens and literacy or science fiction writers within the European Commission itself. You can read those stories or see the exhibition and imagine a dialogue with ancestors from the far past and the future. Another strong recommendation. Here at the EPALE community, we also value stories because learning is all about transformation. So here's a question. When did learning stop being just about skills and become something more? That's the question at the heart of this year's EPALE Community Stories Call. The In Between invites adult education practitioners across Europe to share honest, personal narratives about the moments when learning triggered something deeper, when professional growth and personal transformation became inseparable. EPALE is not looking for just best practices or success stories. We're looking for the human ones. So submit your stories before the 30th of June 2026, and we'll feature a selection of them in the official EPALE Community Storybook, which will be published in October. Your story really matters, so find the submission form on EPALE and start writing. And we wanted to give you a feel for what we're looking for this year, so the EPALE team have created something really special. Let's take a look.
Think about someone who changed in front of you. Not their skills, them, the way they held themselves, the light that came back into their eyes. That moment when you realize something is changing. We create learning spaces, and people arrive carrying so much uncertainty, displacement, the weight of starting over. And then, slowly, something lifts. They find their footing. They start to trust the space, the others, themselves. They are able to go from just surviving to breathing again. Tell us about those transformations. When someone stopped hiding and started participating. When isolation gave way to connection. When you watched dignity return to someone's face. Or tell us about yourself, when learning became the ground beneath your feet, when it gave you a place to stand. Share what you've seen, what moved you, how someone found their way from lost to found, how a space became shelter, how learning wasn't about achievement, it was about recovery, about hope, about feeling like a person again. We're listening. Share your story with us. Let's celebrate what happens when people are given space to become themselves again.
What a fabulous video. We hope it inspired you and that you had loads of thought-provoking elements from today's webcast. We really look forward to reading and hearing your stories. So remember, the deadline to submit them is the 30th of June. That wraps up our webcast for today. Thank you so much. Goodbye from Brussels and see you next time. Bye.